looks like it might be a bit too bright. Better? I don't know. This video is a bit overdue. I promised you a video about the car and the setup for a while now. When I have these specific videos in mind, I often overdo it a little bit in the not planning but envisioning the video, and it ends up being a little bit too overwhelming, and I just don't do it. So now when I got some good weather, I decided to pop out and drive up to a lake here above Husavik. It's called Botsva. I'm gonna show you both from outside of the car, from footage that I did actually record before, and then show you a little bit of the inside here. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of history or how my cars have evolved, the different cars that I have owned here since I moved to Iceland. When I just got here, I did not really plan to drive around out in nature to any degree really. So I bought a very cheap old Volkswagen Polo, which was fine for a while. But very soon I thought, or I felt that I needed something that could take me around more out in the nature and could also handle the snow a little bit better. So I bought my first little 4x4 or Jeep or whatever, which was the smallest one I could find, a Suzuki Jimny. I bought it unmodified, just on stock tires, but I quite quickly started to think about making it a little bit more capable. But this was all new to me, like having a Jeep, modifying Jeeps, like what does that even mean? In all kind of ways. So I knew almost nothing. I didn't know anything about cars really at all. All of my cars have been kind of a long stretch of just me trying to, gather information and talk to people, Googling, going to finding people to ask about these things. But I ended up deciding to modify it a bit. I found a shop that was supposedly the best person in Iceland to modify Suzukis. I ended up modifying the car for 30-inch tires, which is not a huge change. I think I did a lift on the car with like 2 inches, and the bigger tires also added 2 inches, so you have like a 4-inch lift, I think. Of course, the Suzuki Jimny is not on 30-inch tires. You don't go up on glaciers and stuff like that, and you can't cross large rivers. But for me, coming from Sweden, not having driven anything like this before or being able to go into these areas in Iceland, it was amazing, and it just opened up a whole new world to me. So I am so both thankful and happy about that purchase. It's definitely a huge reason why I'm sitting here today and having gone down the path of kind of the Icelandic explorer, whatever thingy. Even some of my volcano footage that I cover more on my other channel, Lava Lens, and also on Instagram, that is also a lot thanks to the Jimny, to be honest, because I could go to the eruption site and be able to get out in bad weather and still always get there and get home. This is also one of the perks with this camper. When it's really cold and I have the opportunity, I can just sit in here and fly. So I'm just taking some shots for this video, for the intro, to show you where I am. So where was I? The Jimny. I had it for, I don't know, 1.5 years, maybe 2. And in the summer it took me everywhere. In the winter it took me to many places. I got stuck a lot in the snow, but that's the thing with the Jimny. It's so light, so when you learn how to handle both it and a shovel, it's very hard to get properly stuck. You can very often dig yourself out of snow, especially. So that was just, I mean, some days when I was out alone, I drove for 100 meters, got stuck, spent 5 or 10 minutes shoveling snow, and then got unstuck and went to another place, got stuck, like just trying to get to new places. I mean, the upside with the Jimny is that it's very, very capable for its price and size, because it's so light. It doesn't take that much to be able to, yeah, do a lot. Especially with a little bit stronger tires and a little bit more clearance under the car, you can do so much. In Iceland, it has two big drawbacks. One is snow. If it's a lot of snow, it's just not tall enough. Like, you need a Jimny on bigger tires, probably like 35-inch, to be able to do proper snow driving, because you need floatage for that car, which means that you literally float on top of the snow. But on 30-inch, you never get to that point. The other big drawback that made me look into a bigger car is the river fordings, or the river crossings here in Iceland. Again, you can do so much with just a stock Jimny and the Jimny that I had, but me personally, I had found the limits. I knew where I could go and not go in this car in Iceland, and there were too many times that I felt that I couldn't do a river crossing or follow the cars that I was driving with. So even with a snorkel, it's just too light. You will just kind of float away. Again, with a lot more experience and a more properly equipped Jimny, you can probably do a lot more. But with my experience, that was a clear limitation. Another limitation is, of course, just the size inside of it. It's both good and bad, but you struggle to sleep in a Jimny. I mean, I spent a few nights in the car, but it's just so small. So even if you put the seats completely flat, which you can in the Jimny, it's still a struggle. And even traveling two people is a little bit of a struggle when it comes to luggage space. I had a box on top of the car, travel box or whatever it's called, so that helped a lot, but it's still a limitation. I also couldn't really bring more people out on my adventures. So these are all, like, you know, it's balance. I mean, I used the Jimny for a long time. I will probably own a Jimny again. I love the car, I love the format, but I wanted to try something bigger. So after, again, a lot of research, talking to people, trying to find out what I should buy, I ended up buying a Toyota Land Cruiser, a 2004, with quite a lot of mileage on it. I think it had like 370,000 kilometers on it when I bought it, and I sold it when it had gone over 400,000. I mean, the Land Cruisers can go on forever. They can drive, you can drive them up to 500, 600, 700,000 kilometers before real engine failure, some of them, if they're properly maintained. So it was a little bit of a gamble. It was a gamble that I don't really regret, but I ended up buying a car that had a lot of hidden rust. Today, I would have definitely gone with the car to a mechanic to have it properly looked into. So I'll probably make a video about the whole process about buying these older cars at some point, from a standpoint of a, you know, non-mechanic, not knowing anything. I didn't record too much of that process simply because I wasn't used to recording stuff and I feel uncertain about things. I'm getting a little bit better in that, but when I'm in that process, all of my focus goes into just trying to make the best decision about the car or the purchase. But the Land Cruiser, again, just like the Jimny, opened up a little bit of a new world. I mean, summertime you can go more or less everywhere in Iceland in this car. The car I bought was also modified with the 35-inch tires, a lift, and, you know, this and that. No big modifications or any modifications to the engine or anything like that. It was the standard gearing. It was a 3-liter diesel. And it took me just everywhere. I mean, I started being able to do some snow or winter driving as well. I went into some highland missions during the winter, which was also amazing. And it did exactly what I wanted. It's also a very, very nice car to travel in. It's very comfortable, even though it's 20 years old, or the one I had. it was built, in my mind, as a luxury vehicle. Such a comfortable car to drive long distances in. It's also very reliable. I mean, even though I had a lot of issues and had to spend a lot of money fixing that car, even when it breaks down, you can almost always get home. It has so many kind of reinforcements. I mean, I drove home at 2 different occasions with the shock absorbers broken off completely, but you can still always get home. And the Land Cruiser is definitely in another class than the Jimny. Again, the Jimny is very capable, but the Land Cruiser can do everything, or more or less everything that a Jimny can, but a lot more predictably and safely. So you can do a lot of the river crossings. You can kind of bang it up a lot without anything really happening. With the 35-inch tires, I could also deflate the tires quite a bit more, which also helps, both with in snow, but also making it a lot more comfortable to drive on the rough roads here in Iceland. I very quickly, when I bought it, I also purchased a top tent. I had an alu cab, a Gen whatever, 2, 1, 3, whatever, I'll put it on the screen. And the combination with the Land Cruiser and the top tent fitted my needs very, very well. I think I spent 50, 60 nights total in that top tent, which is quite a lot, and I enjoyed most of those nights. I had a few sketchy ones with a lot of wind, but most of them were completely fine. And I mean, on one trip I spent almost 2 weeks in a row, like most of the nights in the top tent, just driving around Iceland, stopping wherever, and just being able to camp whenever, wherever. The downsides with the Land Cruiser is that it's, because it's older, it's a lot of maintenance. I had to, I mean, my second most cold number after my girlfriend was my mechanic. So shout out to you, Mikey. Yeah, it spent quite some time in the shop. All of these older cars, if you don't have the know-how, it's going to be a lot of repairs, and it's going to cost a lot of money. With the Land Cruisers, the rust is the biggest issue in the frame. The size is both good and bad. It's good because you have a lot of room. It's a very comfortable car. You can comfortably travel around 4 or 5 people with all of the luggage and everything, and you can easily get there in comfort. But it also, of course, then uses a lot of fuel. It's quite heavy, a drinking diesel car in the end of it. Also because it's a little bit older, it has a big engine. I don't know anything about the mileage, can't really speak for that, because even though I measured it sometimes, I had a tent on it, and it's just, again, there's a lot of variables there. But the downsides are definitely the mileage and the fuel economy, and the economy in general, I would say, especially if you can't do any of the major repairs yourself. And yeah, but overall, I did not regret that purchase. I would maybe have done it a little bit differently if I had all the know-how that I have now. If I had that back then, I would have done it differently. I would probably have bought like a little bit more expensive base car, but with lower mileage and also less rust. So the biggest drawback, or the reason that we switched cars and the camp setup, was more or less the lack of indoor space. I spend a lot of time out in the nature, and Iceland has rough weather and rough climate. And it's easy to come here and just go out when it's good weather and only travel in the summer months and you know, be fine with that. But I want to extend that period as much as possible. I want to be able to enjoy it even when the weather is in the normal way bad. I want to be out in storms. I want to be able to go places in winter, and I want to be able to calm down a bit when it comes to the driving. Because what happens is that if it's bad weather outside, you end up sitting a lot in the car. Because it's not that comfortable, you end up just driving. You just, let's go to the next place. And you just kind of go to the next place and next place and next place. And I mean, that's not what I want. Like, I don't want to just drive around. I want to stop and enjoy the areas. I want to preferably park the car and not even move it for several days in a row. And with the top tent and the alu cab and the cruiser, I felt that I often went to a place and the weather got a bit bad even when I was alone, and I ended up like, you know, thinking about going home, because you kind of miss being able to lie down or sit up, actually even more, sit up like this with a table, have coffee and cook and use the computer and, you know, do stuff like that. And because you can't really do that, you get kind of fatigued, and you end up either just driving forward or going home. And I wanted to get away from that. So after many back and forth, we just randomly, actually last summer, we were out east in Iceland, and in a campground over there, I saw a similar car. It was a little bit bigger car than what we ended up buying. It was a Toyota Tacoma, so the petrol version and the larger version of the Hilux. And we did look into Tacomas, but there was just no proper or like in good shape Tacomas that we could find. Even though we never found a Tacoma that were in good enough shape for us to want to buy it, we did end up falling in love with the concept of these campers. So what we did directly after this was starting to look for one, but we were also able to rent one or borrow one for a few days, which very much helped the decision, because we had such a great time. We only had it for a few days, but we headed up into the Highlands, and we were able to do exactly what we had been missing with the previous setup. We drove around, we just parked it more or less whenever or wherever possible and allowed, and could stop for either the night, but also just stop for coffee or to take a nap in the middle of a rainy day or anything like that. So from that moment, we were very much decided on finding one of these campers and then a car to put under it. And this took us a few weeks or maybe even months to put this all together. We managed to buy an older house or camper. I think it's 10-12 years old and in like good, you know, usable shape, but still we're gonna need to fix it up a bit this year. We bought the camper first and then started looking for a car. That was also kind of a long process. Took maybe 1.5-2 months to buy or find the right car. But eventually we found one that we were satisfied with, bought it, and started the work of also attaching the camper, which is not the easiest thing to do, but we found a guy that could help us with that. And yeah, I think that's it about the kind of backstory. Before I give you the tour here on the inside, I have actually recorded a video from the outside of the car and the camper and a little bit of the modifications. I just took the opportunity when I had good weather a few days ago. So I'm gonna start by showing you that. I went out here into the into the 1 hour of sun that we're getting today. So here it is. Our new Hilux, which you have probably seen in some of the earlier videos. But I'm gonna do a quick walk around, just show you how it looks, tell you a little bit about it. I'm not gonna go too deep into all the details. So it's a 2016 Toyota Hilux. We bought it as a pickup truck, but removed the kind of house, the pickup house or whatever it's called, and put the camper on. Some of the modifications that have been made to the car, the most obvious is of course the tires. The whole car is modified and lifted to be able to fit 37-inch tires, which is what it has on right now. Maybe I'm just too used to it, but you can't really tell how big the tires are when you just look at it like this. Kind of have to, and I mean, I can't really like stand here, but you know, it's like up to my waist, the car or the tires. And these are Toyo open country tires. It's a mud terrain, so it's not really optimal for snow and ice, but I have also had them cut and studded. So there's studs in the tires in the outer parts, and then in the middle here you do what is called micro cutting or something like that, which means that they just cut in a pattern, and that helps a lot with both snow and ice, I think. Another detail of the rims and the tires are these vents where I can just open up to deflate them. I don't have any automatic system, which some people have here, or cars, where you can more or less inflate or deflate your tires from inside of the car. I don't think I will put that on this car, but you never know. But this is a very good way. You can just open it up to deflate them, which is something we do quite a lot here, both for comfort, but especially for traction in snow and loose ground. To be able to fit these tires, you have to do quite a lot. I mean, the tire, when it's stock, the center of the tire is somewhere like here, I think. So you have to cut out a big part and put new kind of wheelhouses or whatever it's called. So these are all new. Normally the tire doesn't come out further than the body itself, but to be able to fit them, these bigger tires, you have to put these on. Oh yeah, they're also 13.5-inch wide, which is, I don't know if I would have picked that, but that was the tires that were on it when I bought it. I did change them, but I wanted to use the same rims, so I just put the same dimensions, or I bought tires in the same dimensions. We also put on the snorkel here, and the reason for that is, of course, the obvious is to be able to do more river crossings, because you more or less move the air intake, which normally is under here, you move that up there. So there's a hose under here that goes into the air intake. That is of course the biggest one, but with that said, you never ever go in water this deep, but it's just it's a very, very cheap insurance, because you really don't want to get water into the engine. That completely wrecks it. But another aspect of having the snorkel, which is also the reason why they are so common in less wet countries, or like in the deserts and stuff, is that you also get the air intake a little bit up and away from all the dust. I don't know exactly what is part of this lift. I will learn more about that and do a video about that eventually, but I'm not going to go too deep into those technical aspects right now. And then of course we have the camper. This is it's an Icelandic design and produced camper. It's called FIS camper, F-I-S. Nowadays they're produced by a company called Highland Trucks, I think. I'll put some links so you can find it if you're curious. The reason for us going with this specific camper is that it was, for our purposes, a very, very good way to be able to still have a car that is really capable in the Icelandic highlands and also in the snow. But it's still a camper where you can not only sleep, but you also have a little bit more comfort. We have, you know, a table, sofa, a little kitchen or kitchenette or something like that. So it was just, yeah, it's I'm not gonna say a compromise, but the perfect kind of balance of comfort, but still a very, very capable setup. There are custom built similar setups, but they are a lot more expensive. So this is a really good way for us to kind of try this out, where we are able to drive the car into most places that I could do in my Land Cruiser, but also being able to have this comfort. And the camper is, I think it's like dry weight, it's maybe 350 kilos. It sleeps, I mean, 4 people. I'm gonna show you the inside in a bit, but you have in the tongue here, up here, there's a 1 bed, so you sleep 2 people, 1, 2, and you have, I think it's almost like 120 wide bed up there, 115 maybe. And then you can make a bed in the bottom part as well, which is similar width and size. Some of the other features is, of course, as you can see, the raised roof here. I think that's the key with this specific camper. You can drive and have it, you of course always have it closed when you drive, and it doesn't take a lot of wind. It's very, very, very sturdy. But then you can open it up and get all the volume inside. Here is the little door and the steps and the little ladder to get into it. Then in this box, I'm gonna show you later, there's a lot of the, I don't know, the practical stuff for the camper. So the heater, water, the diesel for the heater, if you haven't had it connected yet, which we haven't. Yeah, all of that is living in this box. We do have both solar and we also charge when we're driving, but if we go to a campground or to some friends or something, we can always connect there and have electricity without emptying the batteries in the camper. So here's an air intake. Here we have some stuff for the heater and electricity mainly. This is like a little exhaust for the heater, because it's just a diesel heater, it's just an engine. Then the electricity goes in here. It comes from the front of the car. It's from the alternator, or I guess the battery. So that is the way we charge the 2 leisure batteries in the camper when we're driving. So anytime we're driving, we're in a very effective way charging the whole camper up as well. And I'm gonna show you the inside, as I said, but here you have both window in the fixed part of the camper, and then one in the part that folds up. I so hope I didn't ruin it now because I had to use some force to open it because it was frozen. But it's not a hugely powerful car. This is not something that can get up on the glaciers easily or go through like really, really deep snow. But it's just the perfect kind of balance or fit for us. Because as soon as you, like, the only way to get those cars is to either have an older one, but that often also requires a lot more knowledge to keep it kind of going. And the other alternative is to, of course, just buy a bigger car with a similar camper. But if you want a newer car like this, which we were kind of eager to try out after having had the older Land Cruiser for a while, we wanted to try a little bit newer car, and to have a new car that is modified in this way, you need probably at least 40-inch or something, like even bigger tires, and with that comes a lot of other challenges. Yeah, like the suspensions, the brakes, like everything is then modified a lot more than on this one, and it's just a lot more money to maintain. You kind of need more skill or like know-how in some ways. I mean, you can always just pay others to do everything, but it's just very expensive to do that. And so far it's been great. We bought it after the summer, so we haven't done any like longer Highland trips. Not like longer, but I mean, I have been to some of the areas in the Highlands with it, and it's been performing well. The tent or the camper is not too heavy, so it doesn't feel sluggish or too, I don't know, heavy for the car. I can still do everything, if not more. Actually, I think a lot more in this car than in my old Land Cruiser. And yeah, I think that was the main things I wanted to show you about the exterior of the camper and the car at this moment, at least. I always feel that there's so much more I want to say about all of the different areas, but I will show you more about this car moving forward. Of course, it's not going to be the main focus of the channel at all, but I know that there's a lot of people curious about the setup that we have when we go out in the Icelandic nature, and so it's always going to be part of it. And also, as I mentioned, some of the reason behind this camper is that we can be out here in bad weather, and then there's going to be a good portion of that will also be spent inside the camper. And that's when I plan to be able to sit down and show you footage and talk through both the footage and maybe hiking stuff from the same day or the day before or something like that, but also to show you, yeah, what we're just doing when we're not hiking. But now it's time to do a little bit of a walk around. I'm not going to walk that much, but show you the inside of the camper. So just give me a second and I will unclutter it a little bit, because right now it's gonna, it's way too much crap in here. This is how it looks right now. And that's me, working at this video. I realize it's gonna be a little bit tricky showing you the inside of the camper, but I'm gonna do my best because this camera is just not wide angled enough. I might take a photo to be able to show you some of the, or like to get a full feeling for it. But this is kind of how it looks when you enter. I'm outside here, going into the or through the door. And right now it's in the kind of day configuration where we have these couches or sofas or whatever. So we have the little table up, and then above it is the main kind of sleeping area. Plenty of room for two. We don't have any specific mattress except the one that came with the camper, but I know there's a lot of things people do there where they make the bed even more comfortable. We have a little light that I almost never turn on, but I thought I'd turn it on now to be able to show you better. Main features, yeah, I guess the bed and this little sitting area, and here you can also sit definitely comfortable for people, but we have also planned, and I'm pretty convinced that you can sit 2 or even more people down here on each side, maybe 2 on this side and 3 over here, and then you can actually sit comfortably up upright on the whole edge here or inside of the sleeping area. So I think you could fit a lot of people in here for like a rainy evening in the campground or when you stop to eat or have coffee. So that's something I'm looking forward to a lot that we can do. And if I turn around, you can see where I came in through the little door. It's not a huge door, but that's the way you get in through the back. Here's the little kitchenette or whatever. A little fridge. I don't know how many liters. I will probably show all of this a little bit better at some point later. This is a gas stove, and we do have running water. And then behind these couches or the sofas, there's two big windows. It's a bit steamed up now, so it doesn't really, it's hard for me to show you how it looks when it's a little bit nicer weather. Here I've just put the pillow up or the cushion behind me, and then I have a blanket. Then to the other side here, it's mainly just storage and a little area for stuff above it. I'm not gonna show you inside of the cabin because it's a mess. Then down here is also one of the key features. So like up here, I can just turn this thing, and then in maybe 30 seconds or a minute, it's gonna be warm air coming out of this. And that's the Webasto heater or the diesel heater that's in the box on the back of the camper. And that's also where the gas is stored for the stove, and also the water for the sink or for the running water. So that just comes out here. Under this bench, it's a mess, but that's where a lot of some of the electronics lives. I'll give a tour of that at some later point. Then under here in the storage cabinet over there, there's the two big leisure batteries that runs the whole setup. Here's also more storage. Again, it's kind of messy, so I'm not going to show you the inside, but it runs through the whole camper, so you can open here or there and access the whole area. And that's where I can store all the kind of car stuff, because I can't really put tools and stuff in the car because we don't have a trunk anymore. So yeah, this whole down area, or the area here below the other bed, can also be converted to an almost similarly large bed as above. You just take the table away. I probably often just store it under the other mattress, and then you put bars over here and use all the cushions to make a very solid, nice bed, which I've actually used quite a lot, because when it's really cold, it's a lot easier to keep the whole camper down. Then I don't even open it up, but you still have enough height to be able to sit in here comfortably. I'm gonna see if I can show you, because even then the roof is like well above my head at least. You can't be a lot taller, but I can sit here without opening the camper at all. And then this whole area turns into just a big, nice bed. And you still have some storage up there. So mostly when I've done this, I am able to store all of the bags and all of the stuff, you know, the clothes and electronics and all the stuff that I need. I just store it up there. We do right now have these boxes down here where we store kind of camping stuff and some food, and this is my electronics, some other random stuff, but I think that's just going to be a lot depending on the situation and where we are, whether or not we need that, because we will, if we're only traveling 2 people, it's very easy to keep all of that stuff inside of the car. Let's see if I can show you also. I'm at a lake very close to downtown Reykjavik. And there's some, you know, kind of safety stuff up there. You see in the middle, it's an emergency knife, because all of this is just fabric, like it's all, you can cut through it. So that's a way to get out if something would, I don't know, if we have a fire and we can't get out through the door. This is the main ventilation. that I have open right now. It's very easy to just open and close. So that's where we open to when we are using the stove or anything like that. There's more ventilation here. I also have, there's a temperature, like this is where the diesel heater reads the temperature, so it doesn't heat up the inside too much. You can see some random cables running here, and this mainly, that's from the solar cells that we have charging this whole setup, running down into the leisure batteries down there. So also a little bit of storage beneath this bench, but not much, because both here and on the other side, that's also where the wheel houses are on the pickup. So you would think there's more space, but it's just, I don't know, maybe 10-15 centimeters wide and not that deep. Another light that's up here. Again, these are a little bit older lights, the ones that are installed. I think I will switch them all out to LED. I mean, there's going to be a lot of modifications in here, nothing major, but a lot of smaller ones. I think we will definitely need some curtains both on the lower and the upper windows. We're going to have a curtain running alongside of the whole bed, both for privacy but also to isolate. And that's the same thing with the door and all of the windows. The previous owners had a pretty nice thing with magnets here, but I think we're gonna go with something else, but we haven't really decided on that yet. And yeah, I think that's most things that I wanted to show right now from the camper itself. But then there's of course other things that we usually do, like I almost always have my EcoFlow here, which is, for those of you that don't know, it's just more or less like a huge battery where I can connect my computer or my drone charger or phone or anything like that. So it's just a very powerful battery. This one is getting a little bit old though. I had it for a few years and it's been going through some rough times, so it's starting to give up, but for now it works. So it's just a very convenient way for us to get power in here for other stuff than the 12 volt, the fridge and the heater and everything. And I think that's it for the interior. It's a little bit messy here. I didn't really clean that much for the video, but I just wanted to show you how it looks right now and how it has been more or less since we bought it. There's definitely repairs coming up and cosmetic stuff, as I said, the curtains and all of that, and also just cleaning it up a bit, seeing if we want to replace some of the the textiles or whatever. But all of that is just secondary. I mean, we have a functioning camper on a car that can take us everywhere. So it's just an amazing upgrade, and I don't prioritize a lot making it look so good right now. That can come maybe next autumn or during the summer or whenever we have a lot of time for that kind of work. And of course, feel free to ask me anything in the comments. I'm happy to answer all the questions that you might have regarding the car or the camper or the setup in general or anything else around these videos. I also, of course, for the first time, really appreciate if you subscribe or leave a like or anything like that. It just helps the channel a lot. It's just been a really great little trip or process or whatever, making these videos, because I'm out here a lot and I really enjoy just being out and documenting the nature, and these videos have been a really great way to just share that with you. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy this video, and I look forward to showing you some more of the Icelandic nature very soon as this rain stops. So yeah, thank you for watching. See you next time.